These are some pictures that my brother bought by the cabin with a bunch of other old stuff in some cardboard boxes. It was my last trip down there last spring. So I found a few that I wanted to scan and add to my collection. There were descriptions on the back of each picture, so first I'm going to show the picture, and I also scan the back, and I'll show you the back, which is Grandpa's words written on the back of the photographs. He's starting off here with a picture of the Serby cabin up on Big Oak Flat just before you go into the 480. This is John Serby's cabin, just across from where his brother George Serby lived in the old L.P. Carter house. He says there's another outbuilding just off to the left in this picture, but I don't ever remember seeing another outbuilding over there. And here are some signs. The top one is the old Maben sign that he put up when he put the new road in after he bought the place to stitch all his little parcels together. I don't ever remember seeing that sign. And below is the old Wells Corral down in between the 80 and my grandparents' house. And that's the old tobacco sign that used to be in that tree just on the hill across the road from the corrals. I remember seeing that sign in there. And Grandpa was really mad when somebody slipped in there with a chainsaw and cut it out of that tree one day before he could get to it. These are the signs that he put in when the Department of Forestry put in the new road. I don't remember this particular sign up at the Big Oak Flat end of the road, but I do remember the one that was down below at the gate coming down off Big Oak Flat onto the Whitney Ranch. I remember that sign being there now. Somebody took it, and there's just a fence post there, like the one right there where Grandpa's standing. And Rex has got a bottle sitting there tied to that fence post with his crow feathers in it and his bad juju marker. That post is just before you come up there to the corner, right behind Grandpa. And you can look out onto Little Oak Flat and see the reservoir. You can see Kauai Lake, a beautiful lookout point. This picture is the old underpass up on Big Oak Flat on the 480. The sections met at a corner, and there had to be a way to get cattle from one corner to the other corner because there was no linear fence line between the two properties. So in the very corner, they built this little underpass for cattle to go from one piece of the 480 into the other piece of the 480. I vaguely remember this. And it looks like it wasn't done very well, according to Grandpa's notes, and it filled up with mud. It was hardly ever usable. So we had to move cattle from one field to the other. These are pictures of the Stakes Boise Cascade laid out when they were making their road up to Big Oak Flat. And this was a severe problem for my grandpa. He absolutely hated this. It probably took years off his life dealing with these folks. But they had these red stakes all over the place. And I had never seen these pictures before. These are the first ones of these I've seen. I've seen these stakes all over the property. And I knew what they were for, but I had never seen the pictures. So I guess they were just cutting trees to get them out of the way of their survey. And they didn't have permission to do that because they didn't own the property. These two signs were put in after Boise Cascade paved the highway. And I don't remember the bottom one. It says private road, but I do remember seeing the other one. The other one stood up and lasted for quite a few years, but it's gone now. Neither sign. I don't know where either sign went to. That bottom sign, the private road sign, that's just inside the cattle guard. Around that corner, you'll see the cabin, and then you'll see the house. This is some pictures of some damage to some fence that some cattle caused. I remember when he wrote about this in his diary. These are the fences that he shared with the old McRae place that the Gills had leased, and the Gills never kept up their fences. Their cattle just ran all over the place and basically fed off the nearest Whitney fields that they could cross through the fencing. And the quail hunters were running in and out of this place at all hours of the night and day, and evidently they spooked some yearlings or something, or some young heifers completely through this fence and just went off and left it this way. They didn't care. Here's a picture of the gate over by the barn that goes up the hill to Little Oak Flat. And up there is beyond that corner is the really slippery, wet rock Whitney Creek crossing. The fire control sign, I have that in my garage. I just restored that sign. And the one up above, I don't know what happened to that sign, but evidently a hay truck running up and down this road knocked this thing off, at least on one side, and they just left it that way. This is one of the things that really made Grandpa mad, as you can tell by the comments on the back of these pictures in the next slide. This is the second Whitney creek crossing. He said he never had any problem going across this thing in 50 years, but with all the truck traffic running up and down there, the Boise's Cascade folks, and then when they left, they leased that property to the Britain outfit, and they were running up and down there and tore this creek crossing up. Just made it a mucky, muddy mess. And Grandpa finally tried to get through here, and he got stuck. He had to call Jim Brister down on Lemon Cove to bring his tow truck up and pull him out. And he was fit to be tied, I'll tell you. Here's a picture of an old dam up at the property line with Big Oak Flat. It's a 1920s dam that was put in by Whitney's to catch a little bit of water so Grandpa could irrigate Little Oak Flat, where he would plant pumpkins and stuff for hog feed out there on the Little Oak Flat. And I scanned this picture because it's so overgrown now you can't even hardly see this thing anymore. And there's some dates and initials and names that somebody wrote in the cement before it dried. And I have that somewhere, but I don't remember the exact date. But there was a diversion put into this dam to cut water out of the creek and send it into the reservoir when he put the reservoir in the 50s. So he could send water down the creek into the reservoir, or he could divert it over onto Little Oak Flat and use it for growing pumpkins.